All right. Well, howdy. Thank you guys for attending our next Paths to Publication. As you know, this is a professional development workshop that we do to help provide you with resources and expertise on moving forward in your own publication, research, grant writing, and even dealing with the graduate student life experience. So this presentation, hang on just a minute, I'm going to share my screen, which I should have already done. This presentation is sponsored by the Education Leadership Research Center and our esteemed director, Dr. Beverly Irby, as well as the Center for Research and Development in Dual Language and Literacy Acquisition, otherwise known as CRDELA, thanks to Dr. Lara and the Graduate Student Advisory Council. And so we will have these the second and fourth Thursday of every month through November. So pretty much, well, okay, we have a couple of months left. Now with Thanksgiving, we'll have a little bit longer break, but we'll start back up again in January. So today I have the privilege of introducing you to Dr. Matthew Etchells, who's going to talk to us about the resume reboot. And so let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Etchells. Matthew Etchells is the director of the Education Outreach, Marketing, and Communications for the Educational Leadership Research Center and CRDELA. He's also the lead coordinator for Project A+ and the director of marketing and recruitment for the We Teach Texas P12 Mentoring and Coaching Academy. He holds a PhD in curriculum instruction from the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Culture here at Texas A&M. He also holds a BA in Performing Arts and Education from the University of Chester, a postgraduate certificate in education from the University of Wales, and a Master's of Education in International Management and Policy from the British University in Dubai. Matthew has close to 2 decades of experience in international schools and universities and has held various leadership positions, including Academic Quality Controller, Head of Drama, Head of English, Head of International Recruitment, and University Instructor. His research agenda includes teacher identity, shadow education, comparative education, and teacher education. Matthew has published over 25 articles and book chapters and is a co-author and co-editor of 2 books, a companion to interdisciplinary STEM project-based learning for educators by educators, and cultural impact on conflict management in higher ed. And I just realized that I'm probably not sharing my screen, but okay, that's fine. So I had this great photo of Matthew, but anyway, all right, what I'm going to do now at this point is let Dr. Etchells tell you all about what he has to share. I think all of us will benefit from what he has to share here. So Dr. Etchells, you may share your presentation.
Good. Thank you, Karen. Okay, so I'm going to go through with you today and talk about resume reboot. Because one of the things that happens when you come to grad school is that you start to shift in terms of your expectations, your goals, and your resume starts to look very different from sort of a corporate, I won't say professional resume, because that means that graduate students aren't professional, but you are professionals. So I'm going to go through with you today and talk to you about how to enhance your resume. So I'll skip this piece of the intro because Karen did a sterling job. But I will talk about the recruitment side real briefly. So I was head of international recruitment for the second biggest recruiter in the UK, and they didn't really have an international desk before I started, and then I doubled what they were doing within the time that I was there. And started to do a lot more international work, bring a lot more international teachers to the UK, and then also bring a lot more English-speaking teachers to other countries around the world. And my main focus was working in the Middle East, because that's where my experience had come from. And then also, the school I used to work at in the Middle East, I did recruitment for a number of years for that school that would involve travel to England, Ireland, a couple of other places, a couple of times a year. So I'm fairly a fair regular at deciding chicken or fish on a flight. So let me go through with you. So we're going to learn a couple of things today. And what I like is a really chit-chatty style of presentation. So feel free to chime in, ask questions as we go along, okay? And I like that style. If we kind of get to the end and you have a ton of questions at the end, I could have probably got through them as we were going through. So feel free, as you see something, say something, okay? So we're going to learn to position your knowledge, skills, and experience on your resume. So what do we put and where do we put it? And then also during interviews, so what's the best way to move into the interview situation, and then also during conversations with potential employers, okay? So I'm going to pick on you as well. I'm going to say names and ask you questions, all right? So if you maybe have your camera off and you're checking your emails, I'm talking about you, okay? There we go. So Hamada, let me ask you. Hamada, when does a job interview start? You're looking for a job, Hamada, right? You're about to finish your PhD, you got your fellowship. People are starting to approach you. They're excited that Hamada is about to hit the job market for real. When does the job interview process start? When does that actual looking for a job and starting to get a job? When does that whole process start, Hamada?
So good morning, everyone. So my thinking last year, and that was one of the errors I had, is it should be around January or February, because I was like thinking if people will be hired in August, it will be in this time, or because I saw some interview announcement or a post job announcement in this time. But this year I got to know that maybe in October, there are announcements going through January. I guess maybe in February and March, they might have kind of like campus visits. Before that, there might be interviews and then campus visits. And if there is selection, they make final decisions, I would say April or something like that. I'm not sure about this sequence.
Yeah, you're correct. So that's the general academic process. You've got kind of a recruitment window in academia. It gets a little bit earlier every year. It's like a couple of days earlier every year. So you're looking at generally October through to February would be the recruitment window. And if you're seeing jobs coming up in March, April, May, June, July, especially August, the likelihood is they've had a failed search or a candidate pulled out, or they've expanded positions, right? Something's happened and they're late in the game, expanding their positions out. So you want to be fairly wary if a job posting comes up in, say, summer, right? Especially if it was something exciting like a 10-year track at a university. That means that definitely it's a failed search, or somebody, they shortlisted and then somebody said yes and then they said no because they got a better offer somewhere else. So you want to be a little bit cognizant of that. But let me rephrase this question for you, Hamada. Hamada, do you know Amanda Sains? Morning,
Yes.
Amanda. How are you? Do you know her?
Yes.
Hi,
Okay.
good morning.
Morning, Amanda. How do you know Amanda, Amanda?
Oh, no, I'm talking about another Amanda. I'm sorry. Good morning,
Okay,
Amanda.
so
How are you?
So you know a Amanda, not this Amanda.
Yeah, I was talking
Okay.
about another colleague that graduated last year, actually.
Sure. Okay. So when we talk about when does the interview process start, when does the job search process start, Hamada, can you tell me now that Amanda might not be your future employer?
I'm sorry, say it again, Dr. Etchells.
Can you tell me now that Amanda, right? You don't know Amanda, okay?
Yes.
Amanda could be the recruiter for the college. She could be a private consultant. Anybody can come to PATS, right? She could be a fellow graduate. She could be an advisor. She could be a member of faculty. She could be in a class that you're going to be in. So when we don't know other people and we're looking for jobs, the short answer is you're always looking for a job, right? Amanda, what do you do now? What's your job right now?
Right now, I'm a research assistant.
So you're research.
Yes, research assistant with a grant.
Okay, you're an Ariana grant. So you have a GA ship, okay?
It's a full-time staff position, but I'm a graduate student, so it's a kind of funky situation, but sort of like a GA ship, but full-time.
Okay. I get it. So Amanda, if someone were to offer you $180,000 to go and do, say, a job in Ohio for a year, would you take that job? If it was same job you're doing now, just in Ohio, $180,000 a year?
There'd be a lot to consider. I have 5 animals, so it would depend.
Okay. But one of the things that happens during the recruitment process is that we'll ask questions like this. And
Okay.
sometimes people might be thinking, I may not be directly immediately looking for a job, but what Amanda will do now for the next 5 minutes is think about that, right? Could I move to Ohio for 180,000? Is it going to cost me less than that to move all these animals? Probably, right? Is that going to be another opportunity for me? Definitely.
Right, okay.
When we're looking at the recruitment process, we're always being recruited. Every presentation you go to, every lunch you go to, every person that you bump into in the supermarket, every time you send an email, all of that is the recruitment process. And a good way to think about recruitment is the way that we think about curriculum, right? So we think about curriculum as everything, and learning and education is everything that happens to the child inside school, outside school. If you approach recruitment from the same standpoint, everything that's happening to you, everybody you meet in the elevator, every time you are in a line, say you go to a college presentation and you're in the line getting a slice of pizza and there's a professor next to you, that person could be your future employer, right? 10 years down the line, Hamada could call Amanda, I've got this great opportunity in Egypt. I've got a 6-week project. Would you like to fly out for 6 weeks, right? And Amanda will be like, oh, I remember him from that past publication. He seems all right. And Amanda in the future might say, Hamada, I really like the answers that you gave in PATS, and I want to ask you if you want to work on this project with me. And then that project leads to a grant leads to jobs lead to becoming your own center and your own grantee, right? So there's a lot of opportunities if you consider recruitment being a continuous ongoing process, and everybody that you interact with is a potential employer, okay? Plus it means you're just a little bit nice to people as well, right? It just means you say thank you a little bit more, and you're just a little bit more polite with people and have a little bit more grace through the day. Okay, so we're also going to think about conversations with potential employers. So the one thing, you'll hear it called elevator pitch, and the one thing that you really want to get down and you want to practice, look at yourself in the mirror and give yourself your job talk and think, would I employ myself, right? Or are you mumbling, are you giggling, are you breaking eye contact, or are you saying, you know, this is who I am and this is what I do and this is what I can do for your organization, your company, your university, and this is why you should employ me over the other 3 candidates that look equally as impressive as I do. Okay, so you want to kind of practice that elevator pitch and be okay, right? And talk to people about what you do for your job, talk to people about what you do for your research agenda, and use the first 100 people to get it wrong, right? Because let's say, Amanda, what would be your dream job?
I would love to become the director of a grant one day for education, for families learning, family literacy.
So that's your dream job, right? And who would you like to be employed by?
By a tier 1 research university.
Okay. And you're looking at those universities, right? And you like those center pages, those university pages on your Facebook, you're looking at them on LinkedIn, you keep up with the news, you've signed up for their email blasts and all their listservs and the mailing, stuff like that. If they've got events like this, you're attending those events, all of these things, right? So you know who's in charge of those colleges and those organizations. And you'd be ready if you were to walk into an elevator and that person stepped in. They're visiting the College of Education and you happen to be in the elevator at the same time. And that's your dream job with the dream person, right? It's like you love social media and Zuckerberg steps in the elevator and you're like,
Gotta pitch it.
your brain's thinking, press all the buttons, buy more time, right? So would you be ready for that talk? Would you be ready to say, these are the 2-3 things? Hey, I know you work at this university. I know you're the dean of this university. I'm about to hit the job market and I'd love to work for you for these 2 reasons, okay? Can I send you my resume? Yeah. Do you need my email? No, I already have it, thank you. Because it's on your website, I've already done the homework, right? You show like due diligence all the way through. But think what would happen if that person stepped into, they're next to me in the restaurant I'm in, they're standing, waiting for the bus at the same time as me. Like, how would that go? Are you ready for that piece, right? Are you ready to get your dream job? Okay, and what barriers are between now and then? So if they said, you know, Amanda, I'd love for you to start on Monday. I'm going to fast track the paperwork, and you turn around and go, I can't, I've got 5 animals. Okay. So you want to think about how ready am I for my dream job? And do I really want that job, or do I want another job that is more rural and I can do the stuff with my animals, I can kind of keep my research interests? So is your dream job actually your dream job, right? Because some folks here might think, oh, I want to be a dean, or I want to be a head of department, or I want to have my own research center. But sometimes when you get your teeth into the thing that you want, you may very quickly realize you might not want it, right? Because being a dean means you do not have a work-life balance. Being a head of department means you do not have a work-life balance, right? You're going to miss things. If you want to go watch your kids play baseball 3 times a week, you want to ponder at what level in an organization are you going to sit at, right? Because there's many, many sacrifices. I worked with President Young a couple of years ago, and I would be at events in the evening, and I would see him 4 or 5 times a week in the evening. And that's what the university pays for, right? And if you pay me $1 million, you can call me day or night. I will answer that call, okay? So that's kind of the cost of doing these things. So ponder these as we go through, right? How ready are we to get the dream job? And think about a couple of things. So fairly common interview question, and I'll ask this to Layli, because I know Layli. What do you do on the weekend? So Layli, what's the weekend look like for you? Are you out at Northgate at the Dixie Chicken going crazy, or are you sitting at home with a cup of coffee, reading a book? Like what does the weekend look like for you, Layli?
So, hello. Usually the weekend does not make any difference for me with the weekend, because right now I'm applying for the job, so I do not want to miss even a minute. So still I'm working on the weekend.
Okay, so that will go 2 ways. Think about that, right? That will go 2 ways for employers. Some employers will be like, amazing, right? Because that's a great deal, Layli. That is a great deal. I pay you for 5 and I get 7, right? If I bought, imagine going to HEB and I buy 5 sandwiches, and as I'm walking out, the manager goes, here's 2 free. That's a great supermarket. I would love HEB for that, right? Some other employers might go, well, I'm concerned about work-life balance, right? I'm concerned about if you are having to work every weekend, why you're not hitting your targets and getting your work done during the week, right? Employers will take that 2 different ways. But one of the things that you want to do is ask yourself, do I want to work here, right? Does everybody work 7 days a week, right? Is this my tribe, right? There's a lot of recruitment talk about like tribes. Is this my tribe, right? Are these my people? Do I synergize with the rest of this group? Are we like-minded in the way that we see institutional goals, right? Are we going to invest in the same things with our emotions, our time, our energy, right? Our commitment. Because if I'm sacrificing my weekend lately, right? I'm taking time away from being with my partner, from going for a run, like having a nap, you know, watching that Squid Game on Netflix. If I'm taking time away from doing those things, I want to know we're all rowing together in the boat and we're all committed and we're all going in the same direction, right? We're not going to have mission drift, all this other stuff. Okay, so I want to ponder these things, but think about a simple. I've seen, and I've probably interviewed 500 to 800 people, right? I've done this a number of years. A question like that, you will see candidates become unstuck in an interview. What does the weekend look like for you? And they get nervous, right? As if free time's a crime, right? I should only be working. But also for some candidates as well, when you say, what do you do on the weekend? And they'll say, I'll work straight through the weekend. I'm just so committed, right? I just love it. I don't want to leave the office. Can't wait to get back on a Monday morning. And then some employees will say, well, steady on. You know, we need work-life balance, and we have a wellness program, and we do yoga, and we like to go for walks, and, you know, lunch break is important. And if you think lately, if you were to have a French employer, it's illegal in France to send an email to an employee post 5 o'clock. So there's certain categories where that would be the right answer, and certain places and work environments where that would be the wrong answer. So here's how you know these things, right? How do you know if it's a good fit, and how do you know what to say? All right, and we'll circle to that in a minute of like the things you want to think about with an employer, and how you know your employer, like how do you get to know them? Okay, so hiring managers will look, and I used to do this, I think probably did in a few less seconds. Hiring managers will look at a resume for about 6 seconds before they've made the decision. And what I would do, there's a thing in recruitment called the sourcer, and that's the person who finds resumes for you to look at, right? And they'll do things like get your long list together, schedule interviews, all this stuff, right? They'll put together packets, if there's links and websites that you need to give to candidates. The sourcer does all of this, they're sourcing things, okay? So I would get a stack of resumes on my desk each day from my sourcer, and I would just look at them and then put them in the shredder straight away, right? So by my desk, you just hear like zzz, 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 the entire day, because I'm just shredding resumes that I'm not gonna pursue, okay? And I'm done, I don't wanna see that resume again. One thing you want to do on your resume is create a resume where the eye is easy to move around the page, okay? And when they look at gaze tracking, they can see that about 80% of the time of people looking at a resume is spent on your name, right? There's a lot of cultural pieces around looking at somebody's name. For example, if you've got like junior or senior or the third or, you know, sir, you've got all these things before your name or after your name. It all kind of connotes things culturally. They're going to look at your current position, your previous title, and then the companies that you've worked for as well, right? So if Amanda wants to work at a tier 1, what do you have on your resume that shows me you play at this level, right? You know, if you taught at a community college, but your student reviews are like a 4.9 out of 5, what's that going to look like at tier 1? I'm looking for best fit, right? I'm looking for somebody who will walk into this job and do a great job from Monday morning, right? Do I need to provide extra training? Am I going to have to do extra resources? Do you need more classes? Do you need a mentor? Like, what do we need to do to get you where we need to get you? So a recruiter's pondering all these things, because all of that is extra institutional cost, right? If we're paying Amanda 180,000, right, to come to this tier 1 university, but then I've got maybe another 250,000 in costs to get her to the place where we need her, to go and teach at Harvard, to go and teach at Stanford, to be at Chicago, right? Go and teach at like Rice. So what else do we need? And what am I seeing? All right. So then also education. And for us, obviously, we're all pretty focused on that education piece. So here's what it looks like. When we look at a resume, so you'll see a lot of time is spent on the top of the resume. And then on the resume on the right, you're seeing that the eye went down and spent a chunk of time on education. So really the education for us, because we're getting an education job, should be at the top, right? That's one of the first things that you want to really show and really talk about. All right, so when we look at resume gaze, that's an important piece. So think of recruitment like dating, right? It's a good fit, right? And somebody like Amanda in presentations like this will be thinking, like, could I work for somebody like that, right? How would I feel if I was getting interviewed by Matthew, right? What would that be like for me? Okay, would I want to work for an organization like that, right? So you're kind of making some decisions, right? And now you're pondering, Amanda, well, which tier 1 do I want to work at, right? Like where are like all tier 1s globally, like anywhere in the world, or tier 1s that fit my agenda in these ways? So you're thinking about these things, right? And you'll have probably 5 or 6 that are your like wish list, right? So you want to think about it like dating. So you don't want to jump in too soon, right? And you don't seem too like, I'll take the job, I'll work for free, I'll pay you, right? You don't want to be like too eager, but at the same time, you don't want to come too standoffish. Well, you know, imagine Amanda goes into an interview with A&M and she's like, well, you know, I got an interview with Harvard tomorrow, so I might let you know like after that. Imagine being on a date, Amanda. Yeah, I thought I'd come in this date, but there's like a guy I'm kind of thinking about meeting tomorrow, and I really want to see how that goes, and I'm going to let you know, right? Like, oh my God, we're going to get married, right? like this is amazing. You're the one, right? So imagine the feelings that you have and what you're looking for as well. Do we have the same interests, right? Do we like the same kind of stuff? Are we aligned work-wise, right? You know, imagine for Amanda, the first question out of my mouth as the interviewer, Amanda, do you work weekends? Will you work Saturday and Sunday? Amanda's going to say no, she's got 5 animals to look after, right? What she can do, bring those to the office and feed them while she's in a Zoom, right? But for Laylee, she'd be like, yeah, I'll work weekends, no worries, sign me up, right? I'll work the day of the leap year as well, right? Laylee's all in, okay? So you want to think about these pieces. Is it a good fit for you? There's not good organizations or bad organizations, or the right organization or the wrong organization. It's just, is it a good fit for you? Okay, so a couple of things you want to think about with your resume, because you can't even get into the organization if you can't get an interview, right? So how do you get the interview? Okay, so beat the data, right? Beat the data or the data. Use words that mirror the language of the job posting and the school's website, and what do they value? So for A&M, it's RELIS, right? If throughout your resume it was permeated that respect is important to you, loyalty is important to you, integrity is important to you, selfless service is important to you, then that's a good fit for A&M. And I'm sure the core values of Harvard are different. I'm sure the core values of MIT are different, right? So how closely am I aligned, right? So at A&M, I have an award for selfless service, right? Association of Former Students gave me an award. Really nice award, looks great on the wall, okay? The translatability of that award to another institution is limited. At A&M, the people that understand that and understand core values, when I say I have that award and that award is given out to 1 in 15,000 students, they're like, wow, that's good. That's awesome. You got an award. There's literally a core value, right? At another university, I go to Chicago, I go to Harvard, somewhere like that. They might be less interested in that. They might say, well, do you have a research award? Do you have a getting grant money award, right? Their priorities may shift to something else, okay? But you want to look at the websites that you're going to, for the places that you want to work, and you want to mirror, okay? And you've heard about mirroring in the interview. So if the interviewer leans back, you lean back. If they kind of go like this, you go like this. So there's elements of mirroring, but you want to scale that up to mirror to an organizational level, okay? Right down to, you will notice I'm presenting to you today, and I'm an employee of Texas A&M University, right? I wasn't born with a maroon closet and a special link to buy maroon stuff. I'm making a choice to align my identity to this organization, right? So I'm presenting professional presentation today. I've got a maroon tie on, okay? Could have bought a pin with a jacket, could have had like A&M stuff behind me, right? I could have like dialed it up a little bit. But you want to align yourself. And in the interview, you want to use the words that the institution uses, right? So a word that A&M doesn't particularly use is like mission driven. Right? We've gone off topic. We've gone away from the central focus of what we're trying to do as an organization. A&M doesn't really use mission driven, right? But they'll talk about like objectives is like a very education word to use, right? What are our objectives? Okay, what's our vision? What's our mission? These are all very like educational words that will come up often in meetings. So how close is this person to our organization, right? And literally on a linguistics communication aspect, when they start their job, are they going to understand us and can we understand them, right? In terms of our actual words we use, our vocabulary, are we aligned, right? Imagine if I'm working on the stock market and I go into the interview and I'm like, you know, that thing where like the money can go up or down and you can make money either way. And they're like, hedging, like you hedge, like a hedge fund? Like, do I know what I'm talking about in the interview? Am I legit in this interview? Okay, so what I would do is skip the skills section. Some people reel off just a ton of bullet points, right? I can use Excel, I can use Windows, I can do Adobe, I can do this. And what you do is you chew up a whole ton of real estate on your resume that you could be using for something more purposeful. Put your skills in context, okay? So like, how did you use this, right? I can use SPSS. I can use SPSS can mean everything from, I can click on the link that opens the program. I'm using SPSS right through to, I use the SPSS to create this report or to create this research paper to do this, right? So how did you do it, right? Because there's real broad terminology in how we think about these things, right? So you want to be precise in your language and maximize real estate. Okay, so use active verbs, industry-specific terms, acronyms, and then also put references on request as well. Okay, because depending on the job, that's going to shift, right? If I'm looking at becoming a school principal or a consultant in Egypt, I might ask Hamada to be on my resume. Okay, If I'm looking at going to get a job in Iran, I might ask Layli to fill my resume. If I'm looking at getting a job where the school has farm animals on the school, I might talk to Amanda and say, Amanda, will you give me a reference? Because I need them to know that I love animals as much as you do, okay? All right, so think about your references. They will shift and change. It's not always the same people for the same job, okay? You want to think tactically and strategically about your references, okay? Okay, so a couple of things to do, all right? Here's what you want to do.
Dr. Etchells,
Go ahead, Hamada.
a quick question, please. So when I refer, for example, to using specific software like NVivo or Stata or whatever, should I give some details about how I use them? This is what you say?
It depends how you used it, right? So some things will be clear to me, Hamada, right? If you publish a qualitative paper, I'm going to think at some point you may have used NVivo for that. But then if I see that you have published 10 or 15 qualitative papers, then I've got much more inclining that you're using NVivo for those, right? Mm-hmm. And somewhere within that, if you talk about your research at some point, is you'll submit other things with your resume. So you're going to submit a cover letter. Sometimes you'll submit a teaching philosophy. Sometimes you'll submit a research agenda, right? These other documents will come with it as well. Also, you're going to submit references as well. So you want to talk to your references. In the reference, could you say that I have a high level of ability in using stats packages like SPSS, Stata, NVivo? One of your references could state that in their reference letter. You could state that in your cover letter, okay? One of the postdocs we employed recently, on the top of her resume, she had statistician. I was done. I was looking for a statistician. She's a statistician, thanks and given, right? It was done. 6 seconds, I made a decision that I want to like pursue this resume and employ this person. So there's multiple ways. It might be the resume, it might be the cover letter, it might be in philosophy or research agenda or in the references. There's multiple places that you can say, like, I use this package, right? So multiple places you can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I mention it, I need to give some details. Like I like only to say I use NVivo and Stata well, or I use like Stata and NVivo for qualitative blah 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 and projects blah blah blah.
Yeah, you want to say project, so link it to something tangible. Because if you say I'm good at NVivo, right? I think I'm good at rugby. Many people I played rugby with would disagree with that statement, okay. So you want to put it in context and let the interviewer decide. This person knows this, right? This person is legitimate. And remember, your resume is just enough to get you to the interview. You don't have, it's not the autobiography of Hamada, right? So you don't have to say everything, right? It's just enough to get you to the interview. And in the interview, you can go for it, right? You can tell them everything you've done every time that you do, okay? But the resume is just to get you to the next step, which is the interview, okay? Everything leads to the interview. So you want to, you're welcome. So you want to make the page pop as well. So sometimes you might change the color on a heading. You don't want to over design. I get some resumes now that are very graphically designed. And I find them a little bit like it's too much, right? You're focused on graphic design. That's great if I'm employing a graphic designer. Lovely, I want to see that. I also want to see your portfolio with your work, right? Ideally, you've made more than a resume. But for an academic job, you don't need to over design. You're not being employed for design. You've been employed for what you know. Okay. Change your objective statement for a summary. So just give a general broad, like, who are you? So like Karen did when she was introducing me, I would chop that down significantly. Okay. Don't repeat yourself, so they're going to see things. But what do you like to do, right? So for me, I like to move teams from point A to point B, right? I like a challenge. I like to untangle problems, right? There's some of the things that I enjoy in an organization. If you give me an Excel sheet and you say every day move things from column A to column B, I'm going to quit by Tuesday afternoon. I can't do that, right? Don't put me in a cubicle. I need a window. I need some outside time. I need to talk to people. I need to communicate. I need to work in groups. These are the things I need. With the door closed and the lights off and just an Excel sheet, crunching the numbers, 6 minutes, I'm done, okay? So you got to think about, like, what job do you want? And really carefully look at those jobs. Look on Glassdoor, look at Indeed. Find the people, say for Amanda, right? Find the people that are doing the job that you want to do in these institutions and follow them. Follow them on Twitter, follow them on Facebook, get on their ResearchGate pages, find their labs and get on the listserv for those labs so you're getting events like this from those places you want to work. Like, embed yourself with that group. Because later, imagine, you apply for a job with us and I turn around and I'm like, oh, I remember you came to that past thing, Amanda, like last week, right? Oh yeah, I've seen you in a ton of our stuff. Like, you're totally interested in working there. I can see that. Okay, right. So I saw you read my ResearchGate paper, right? I saw you cited my paper in your paper, right? There's many, many tactics to, like, all roads lead to Rome, right? With recruitment, there's many ways to get your foot in the door. Say at a conference, Amanda, you might approach me, you'll attend my session and then be like, I just read your paper on this and I'm writing a paper that's similar to your work like this. And I might say, oh, let's work together. That sounds exciting, Amanda. It sounds like we're pretty aligned, right? Let's work together, okay? So you want to also guide the reader's eye. So look at it through the page. And what I would do is print your resume off and give it to lots of people, okay? And ask them, what are you seeing there? And they might say things like, oh, I saw that you were head of drama, right? I saw that you were a dean of students. I saw that you got a research award. Okay, then there's a problem on my resume because I don't want to be a head of drama again, right? I don't want to be a dean of students again, right? Ideally, you're seeing like director or something. You're seeing like lead coordinator for something. They're the jobs that I want to move into. So am I putting the right things on my resume forward first for the jobs I actually want to get, as opposed to just, I've done these things, right? So what's the priority with your resume? A couple of things to not think about, do not do. So lack clarity, right? One of the hardest things, and I know this is a joke from the office, but one of the hardest things to discern on a resume is, was the person the assistant manager or the assistant to the manager, okay? So when you're talking about group projects, if you say our organization worked on this, you could have been pushing the buttons in the elevator. I have no idea at what scale you were involved in that project. I work for this company and we improved profitability by 20%. Okay, did you do that? Was the 20% yours? What was everybody else doing? You're the only one working? Like, nobody else is doing anything in your company. You're the only one getting anything done, right? So at what scale were you involved in this project? And be honest about that, right? Be really honest. Because you don't want to get yourself into something you can't get yourself out of and be messy career-wise, right? You end up leaving a job after 3 months, 6 months. It looks messy on a resume. So cramming too much information into one page, all right? So like we were talking about with Hamada, you don't have to say everything. There's going to be other opportunities within your recruitment packet to say some of these things, okay? So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Let's say I'm interviewing Amanda. As a recruiter, right? Colleges and universities may not always do this, but I can tell you absolutely 100% a private recruiter, a private consultant will do this every single time. I get Amanda's resume and she's now moving from the long list to the short list, right? So 10 on the long list, 3, 2 on the short list. These are now the people we're going to invite to campus, right? I'm going to go straight on all of your social media, your LinkedIn. I'm going to Google your name, see what comes up. I'm going to do a deep dive. Okay, a deep dive, purely for the reason, Amanda, that if I'm working as a private consultant, I want 12 to 20% of your initial salary, right? So the university is going to pay me that, but as a recruitment fee. If you leave within 6 months, I've got to pay that money back. And I really don't want to do that, right? Maroon ties aren't cheap, so I don't want to do that, okay? So you want to do due diligence, and a private recruiter will absolutely do a deep dive on your life. So if there's something on your Facebook, right? During your early 20s, you want to go through your Facebook, through your social media, and really have a look at what's there, right? Am I putting my best foot forward? Laylee says she works all weekend, right? If I go on Laylee's Facebook and every weekend she's posting that she just did like a 10-mile walk somewhere, okay? Is your job walking? You told me you work all weekend. So now what I'm seeing and what you're saying is two separate things, right? If I go on Laylee's Facebook and I see her at coffee shops writing, right? Really productive writing day. She's in the park, lying in a hammock, right? Nice Instagram photo of her with a coffee and a laptop with a research paper up. I'm like, okay, this is legit. She works all weekend, right? And she's focused on her resume and she's focused on her research. Okay, so you don't want to break up the information too much. So too many bullet points, too many headings, too many fonts. You want a little bit of consistency. So break it out into sections like your education, your jobs, your research, your conferences, but don't break it out too much, okay? Otherwise, I get lost in the headings and it starts to lose the thread of what you're trying to say. Think of your resume like a story. What story am I telling? As I move from one section to the next section, what story am I telling? And one brief point on that really quickly is you absolutely need to make sure that there's no unexplained gaps on your resume, okay? And you will have this, right? You will have this to a certain extent. You were working, right? You had a nice life, you're all happy. And then you decided for some reason to come to grad school, okay? So then you're gonna have a gap with employment. So you may have been like director, coordinator, CEO, all these nice swanky jobs. And then you come and then you're graduate assistant, right? Research assistant for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. There's these major career pauses on your resume, and you've got to explain that to a recruiter or a university. You all think right now, many of you think that you want to go into higher education, you want to become a university professor. The actual data show that many of you will go into private industry, right? About 1.2% of you will finish your career in academia, but many, many, many of you at some point will exit the field of academia and go and do something else career-wise at some point. So you want to ponder these things. How is my resume stacked for option A, option B? Okay. So next bit, don't take a one-size-fits-all approach, right? One thing a recruiter can sniff out in about 2 seconds is that they're just getting pebble dashed by a candidate and they're just sending the same cover letter. Dear sir, ma'am, right? For your perusal, right? All these things are just real triggers for recruiters that you're just bulk sending me, right? So Amanda, if that tier 1 institution is your dream job, how are you sending the same email to 10 institutions? You have 10 dream jobs? You're going to work at 10 places at the same time? Doesn't add up, does it? Right? So you want to think, how is it tailored? Right? And what I might do, Amanda, to be really nifty with my resume, if I'm applying to A&M, all of those fonts that I had in blue, I might change to Aggie Maroon. So when I get the resume, I might be like, oh wow, she really is a good fit for us. Right? I might make sure that I have relish permeating through my resume, that I talk about respect, I talk about loyalty, right? And you could say things, you know, I increased, on your normal resume, you might say, I developed teamwork, right? In A&M resume, you might say, I had a focus on loyalty and integrity, and that increased team productivity by in this way, right? I developed loyalty, and that meant the 30% less people left the organization than the year before I started. Right? So you might make some of these statements that are A&M focused, okay? So don't make it all about you, all right? They're employing you, you're not employing them. So you need to see the world through their eyes. They don't need to see the world through your eyes, all right? So just get the relationship right of who has the power in the conversation. You are going to work for them. They're not going to work for you. So what can you add to that organization? What are you going to do for your employer? Okay. So for say in our center, right, we do a lot of writing and a lot of publications. So being able to show that you can edit things is important. Being able to show that you write is important. Being able to show that you can publish is important. Nobody even gets an interview with us if they haven't got publications on the resume. We don't have time for that, right? Like we're not running a kindergarten, we're running a professional research center. So we need people that can step in and be as job ready as possible from day one, all right? So you want to look very carefully, what's this organization do? How close am I aligned to that? Okay, and then focus on tasks instead of results, okay? Often I'll see on resumes, I increased profitability by 20%, I spent, $1 million through the grant, all these statements will be on resumes. How does that translate to our organization, right? I increased profitability by 20%. Maybe you're working for Amazon and you're working on shipping, right? And that's super easy to increase profitability by 20%. You just spent a ton of money on Facebook adverts, right? How's that going to translate into academia? So what translatable, transferable skills do you have from what you were doing to what you're about to do? Okay. So you want to think about that. Focus on the tasks instead of just the results, right? Because the results were for the last job. You're about to go and do another job. So what skill set do you have? Right? So for example, I can kick a football. I scored 50 goals in the last season with the soccer team I was with, okay? Or I can kick a football at this speed and my accuracy is this percent. That's a transferable skill to my new job, right? Scoring 50 goals, maybe I played teams that suck. Maybe there was no goalkeeper, right? Felt everyone else kicking the ball, right? We don't know. So you want to focus on like, what can I do as opposed to what was the outcome? The outcome is job specific. The outcome is company organization specific, right? There would have been a framework around you that enabled you to do those things in that organization. Okay. All right. So one thing that you want to be very careful with, padding, right? You don't want to overinflate your resume. And one thing that you will see, things will drift off your resume. So for example, now, right, I might add this on my resume as invited guest speaker, okay? Despite the fact I told Karen to invite me, is neither here nor there resume-wise, but invited guest speaker, okay? That could go on my resume. But really, at what level is that? I got invited by a research center, okay, in the College of Education at A&M University. So the fact that A&M is there is good, right? I got invited as guest speaker at a tier 1 institution. But as I do other things, I might take this off my resume, right? If I do this again, I might not add it twice. I'll just keep it at one time, right? So you want to use some discretion, and you don't want to overinflate your resume, right? You don't just want to pad and just add everything you've done all the time ever. So be very careful with that, because what that leads to with somebody who's reviewing your resume is it's really hard to find the diamonds in the rough, right? What are the really exceptional things about you that you're trying to show me on your resume? But if there's all this noise around those things, it's really hard for me to see those things on your resume, okay? And then also provide context. So if you are talking about achievement stuff, like Hamada, I've heard you talk before about having a STEM school in Egypt, right? So what does that mean? And then, because I know Hamada, he will say, well, we were the only one in Egypt to get this money from the government. So that shows that he was a successful principal. It shows that the school was going in a great direction because the government was funding them, was supporting that. So I would see something like that. But if Hamada just said, I improved STEM scores by 20%, what does that mean? In context, what does that mean? There could be one kid doing STEM, right? And Hamada came in and coached that one kid. Am I going to hire him as a principal for a STEM school in the US? Like, what does that mean, right? Is this person ready to go and do the job that I'm actually asking them to go and do? And what evidence do I have that they will be a good fit for that? Okay, so how to talk about your academic skills. So I'm going to pull up a resume that I have. And I have permission to use this resume. And I've changed the resume a little bit, okay? All right, so you can all see that. Couple of things, let's get down to the nuts and bolts in the last sort of couple of minutes. Couple of things you really want to focus on. So there's some good things here, and there's some things that make me cringe as a recruiter. What do you think is effective? And feel free to chime in, anybody. What do you feel is effective about this resume? And I just want to look here for about 2 minutes. So what works well and what's not so great?
Her name is in bold and easy to see, and we know exactly how to contact her.
Yeah, so nice and bold, easy to see. So if I'm looking for Anna Harris, right, Amanda, on my desk, I can find it. Right? I'm not having to like look around amongst the other 50,000 papers that I've got. Recruiters are exceptionally disorganized. I will tell you that, because you've just got stuff coming every 2 minutes. Imagine you put a job up. A&M puts a job out for somebody in curriculum instruction, your department, Amanda. Or sorry, actually the department that Holly's in. About 150 people will apply for that job, right? And then somebody has to go through all of that. Somebody has to look through every single resume and decide 10, and then 3, and then 1. Okay, so you have to like churn through all of that. So we like the name. Okay, we like the name. What about this line?
It's not clear if it's like a personal address or a work address. So
it could be work, could be personal. So Abby, I'll tell you, I'm from Manchester. If I know that you're at the job interview on that day, I can just go rob your house. Right? I know exactly where you live. You just told me everything, right? You just told me. And also what I'm going to do, because this is what recruiters do as well, I'm going to tap that in to Google Maps, and I'm going to see where you live. And that's going to tell me how much I really need to pay you, right? Right. That's one of the indicators I will use to make recommendations to an employer. I think she'll take the job for this. Okay, I'm going to look at your car outside your house. I'm going to look at your pool in the back garden. I'm going to look at the tennis club that's 2 minutes away from you. I'm going to look at these things as indicators of positionality, right? That's one of the things I will look at. And just to see, right, you tell me you're all neat and tidy, and I can see you've got like 5 dumpsters outside your house, right? Lately's telling me she works the whole weekend, and then I look at the back garden, there's like 50,000 things set out, like she's looking at running a big party every weekend, right? So these things will tell me, there'll be good indicators for like, what is it like for you, right? Also, I don't need to know your address. I just need to know the area, right? College Station, Texas is enough for me, right? That's all I need to know. Okay, that's all I need to know. I don't need to know what house you have, what street you're on. All of these things are part of your identity and part of your data. And if you think if that then goes up online and it goes out somewhere, you're giving people a whole chunk of information about you, about your identity, your data, right? There's a whole lot of stuff there that you want to protect, and your exact address is one of them. So College Station works for me, okay? Phone number's great, I wanna call you. And then this piece is really important, all right? Link your email, all right? I can tell you I've done it, and my colleagues have done it, where they'll mistype an email and then somebody doesn't get the email about a job interview. And then in the time that they've responded, we're like, sorry, we moved on, right? It's our mistake, right? Nobody got sued for a typo on an email, I can tell you that, right? So nothing happens, you just end up not getting the job. So have one click to your email. I should be able to click that and her email will come up, and then I can go ahead and email her directly. Okay, and that's what I want to do. I want to get on the phone with you. I want to get your email. So if Amanda knows that I'm the recruiter for the job that she's looking at, and I sent her an email that has my cell phone on it and my office phone, the first thing Amanda should do is save those 2 numbers as Matthew A&M. And then when I call, it's not about your car warranty. I'm not trying to sell you like insurance, right? I don't need money for the Association of Former Students. This is actually a legit job offer, okay? A couple of things here. Putting GPAs on resumes. Who cares about your GPA? And remember, for an academic job as well, we're going to get your transcript, so we're going to find this thing out later. But who cares about your GPA? Let me help you out. You care about your GPA, and your mother cares about your GPA. Nobody else cares. Okay? Nobody else in the world cares about your GPA, right? Unless it's a 4.0, then good for you. Nobody really cares. But also, I'm a little bit wary about somebody who's never kind of faced failure, faced any adversity. A 4.0 at a tier 1 institution tells me you probably took some easy classes, right? You've shied away from the harder stats classes. You wanted that 4.0. So outcome is more important to you than process, which means, are you a team player, right? Are you going to put the team before yourself? It starts to raise some of the questions for me, right? About what I'm looking at. And I would want to find out more about that, right? On all of your research papers, are you always first? With somebody else first? On all of your research papers, you're always last. Why are you always last, right? On your papers, why are you always first? Is that collegial? Is it collaborative? People can only work on your projects, but you can't work on theirs, right? So your resume is going to tell me all this information. Like it's a treasure trove of what I want to know.
So
when we
for
look
this
at,
one, I have a question, sorry.
Sure, go ahead, Holly.
One with the GPA, would it be better to just leave it off so that it can be more in context with the transcript? Because if you do have a 4.0 and you took hard classes, that would be like more meaningful than just having that GPA separated from the course list. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
I would, and then say A&M, I'm looking for you to have, say, the Advanced Research Method Certificate, some of the stuff as well. If I know the institution, it's like you got a 4.0, but then you didn't do this certificate, that would have been super easy for you to get as you matriculated, right? So there's some things that if I see A, I'm going to look for B, right? There's some little bits on your resume that should add up, right? The bridge should have two pieces to it.
Okay.
What I'm looking for as well, this is a great example. So I've got a time period that's really clear. And what I will do is I'll skim down this side of the page. And what I used to do is literally on a bit of paper, would draw a line and do the dates add up, or is there a break, right? And why is there a break? Summer, you can explain it. But in the middle of the year, why is there a break? And you will see that on teacher resumes. You'll see teachers who are getting fired. They make it about 6 months, 8 months in a job, and then they get let go from the school. So always by March, April, they're back on the job market again. And that tells me time for the shredder. Okay, that tells me I don't want to get involved. Whatever it is, remember, if there's an air of doubt, your resume will get pushed aside. If there's something that just doesn't quite add up, a recruiter is not going to give you the benefit of the doubt, call you for a 45-minute conversation. They're just going to push it to one side because there's 1,000 candidates that want the job that you're going for. But this is great where you've got experience. We clearly have the job title, what they did. So they worked down in DC. That's great. Bit of DC. Work on your resume is always good. We can clearly see what they did for the job. And then there's the verbs that we're looking for here, right? So they collaborated, they worked, and then at what level was it? So from looking at that, I can see that's a professional job. But if I come down to the next one, right? Virtual student intern, student research assistant, right? Teaching assistant, substitute teacher. So I can see that their early career and they're about to start stepping into really professional stuff. So I might come back and look at her again in a couple of years, right? For a professional full-time staff job, I might not go with her right now. I might email them and say, do you want to do an internship during the summer so we can have a better look at her, but I might not employ her for the job that I'm talking about. Okay, let me go back to the last couple of slides that I've got, just to summarize for you because we're right on the hour. So do enhance your contact information, do make the page pop, right? So it should be visually pleasing, aesthetically pleasing. Change your objective statement for a summary. Guide the reader's eye. Okay, so as you go down the page, is it easy to move from one thing to another? Is the narrative of my life, my career, really translatable on the page? Is it clear? Okay, beat the data. All right, so don't get too focused on numbers and percents. Forego a skills section for a summary. Maximize your real estate. Do not lack clarity. Do not cram too much information on one page. Do not take a one-size-fits-all and just email everybody the same stuff. You need to write a detailed cover letter for every single job, a new one, a fresh one. There's not a statement bank. You're not cutting and pasting, right? Because you don't know, right? Let's take Amanda again. Dream job, you don't know. You apply to A&M, and I sit on the recruitment panel for A&M. You apply to Harvard, I could be sitting on the recruitment panel for Harvard. And I'm looking at your resume and your cover letter saying, this is one of the best jobs in the world, right? This is your dream job. And for your dream job, you're cutting and pasting half of your cover letter, right? Like, I'm sorry, you were so busy doing other things and that this wasn't important to you, right? So you got to really focus on it. If it's your dream job, you should be spending like every second really focused and looking at who works there, what are they doing, all this stuff. Okay. All right. And then also, don't make it all about you. So make it about your employer. What are you going to do for them? Not what are they going to do for you, right? How are you a good fit for them? Not how are they a good fit for you? How are you going to bring success to their organization? Not how they're going to make you more successful. Okay. And real quick example of that, a friend of mine said a while back, I need to get a promotion at work. I need to be a director. And I said, well, why do you need to be a director? And he goes, well, I need more money. And I said, okay, none of that is going to get approved by your boss because they don't care about your money and they don't care about your job title. What are you going to do for the organization that then means you are at the level of being a director, right? Right now you're a manager because you manage things. So what are you going to direct, right? In which direction are you going to put things and what things you're going to suggest? There's not managing, it's now directing. Like, why would you be a director? And then you can ask for more money, right? And what I suggested was start doing those things, start doing those bits in your job. And then later you can say, well, I think I've added these job duties and I think that my job title might change to this, right? So you've got to think about how you go about it as well. So don't pad, and then make sure that you provide enough context. So not providing enough context will lead somebody who's reviewing your resume to kind of get a little bit dissuaded. So that's it from me. What I will say, you're more than welcome to reach out to me at any time. It is very easy, and here's the test for you. It's very easy to find my information online, to find my A&M email, to find my contact details, okay? And what I will say is that if you're willing to put enough effort into figuring out my email and emailing me, I'm more than happy to take a quick look at your resume. I'm more than happy to do a quick Zoom with you, to do a quick one-on-one coaching session with your resume. As you start applying for jobs, I'm more than happy to talk to you about the best way to put your foot forward for those jobs. And the favorite thing that I like to do, as you get into contract negotiations and actual salary pieces, I'm more than happy to look at those contracts. Traditionally, I managed to move people up about one pay scale from negotiations. So I'm pretty good at that side. And those folks of my team that know me know that negotiations is a pretty exciting thing for me. So you're more than happy. Anybody who came to this session, you're more than welcome to reach out to me at any time, now or in the future. If I leave A&M at any point, you're more than welcome to find me on Facebook and contact me through there, okay? Or LinkedIn and contact me through there. But more than happy to look at resumes and to help you with getting your dream job, Amanda, Laylee, Amanda. Okay, well, thank you, Karen. If there's more questions, I'm happy to hang around for a minute and answer questions, but if folks need to hop off, go work on their couple
Dr.
letters.
Etchells, thank you so much for this
Thank you,
wonderful
Dr. Irby.
presentation. There was a question I had posted something while you were talking in the chat related to salutations and inside addresses. Be certain that you, on your letter, that you put an inside address. Whoever the search chair is, do not say to whom it may concern, nor should your references say to whom it may concern, okay? So you have to use the name of a person. Now, you can say to, dear Dr. Etchells and search committee or something to that effect. Or and Karen McIntosh asked if there is no name listed, like Dr. Etchells is the search committee chair, but it's not listed like that, it's just search committee. Then you need to contact the university and ask that department and say, would you mind telling me who the search committee chair is? Then you can look that person up and get the right information. If it's Michigan State, Dr. Matthew Etchells, Michigan State, you can look him up and get his information and address, so you can make the inside address. But if they say, just send it to the search committee, fine. But your inside address will say the curriculum and instruction search committee. And then it's dear curriculum and instruction search committee. So if that's what they tell you to do, wonderful. But otherwise, you need to really try to get the personal name of whoever is the search committee chair or wherever it's going. Okay, so just don't. The bottom line is, don't say to whom it may concern, or dear sir, as Dr. Etchells says, or dear madam, or whatever we say now. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it, Dr. B. And it goes back to what we said about the beginning about dating. Imagine going on a date and sitting down and be like, hello, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, who
Right.
are you talking to?
Yes.
Right? But also, you're going to have gone on your LinkedIn, you're going to go on Facebook, you're already in that circle, right? You're going to go to the conferences that they're going to, you're going to have read their research, so you have a real good handle on like probably who's on this committee, what room am I in? So if it's the College of Education, there's probably a likelihood Dr. Irby's going to have a hand in that somewhere. Dr. Irby, Dr. Nafuku, Dr. Hill Jackson, somebody on the dean's floor. And I can find all of that information out online. So when I send it, I might send it, dear Dr. De Miranda, dear Dr. Irby, right? I already know pretty much who I'm sending it to. But as Dr. Irby said, you can get on the phone and ask. I'm doing a reference for such a person. I'd just like to know who to address it to. Because I would tell you, and I've been through this with Dr. Irby, Dr. Irby will not write an open reference. She wants to know the job and she wants to know who's it going to. And she will spend, like Laylee, her Sunday evening writing that recommendation letter so that it is the best recommendation letter that you can get. And if you get a reference from somebody like Dr. Irby, 99% sure you're going to get that job, right? Because of who she is.
I don't know about that, but
Yeah, I do.
Just the name, Dr. Etchells, just the name.
Just the name. Just even to say it out loud, Hamada, means so much.
Just the name.
no.
Good. Any more questions?
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead, Laylee.
Thank you so much for your graceful presentation. Dr. Etchells, for the resume, when we wanted to introduce our email address, do you recommend that to put the academic email address or the personal address? Because I usually use my Gmail address. I do not use the Tamil account because I'm not sure that how long can I have access to the Tamil account? So which one do you recommend?
Depends on the job you're going for. There's certain things that you want to, like as a graduate student, you have a little bit more freedom than staff or faculty. The thing that you want to be careful of, right? And this is for the staff and faculty in here. The second you start looking for a job, you have to work from the understanding that within 5 minutes of you showing interest, your boss may get a phone call from somebody on that search committee, somebody at that university, somebody who's seen your resume. And so you want to be really open and honest and candid with your boss. Okay, this project's coming to an end. Now's the recruitment season. I'm going to start looking for a job. I've been looking at this university. They've started a program that's like what we do, but at a slightly bigger scale. And I was thinking about that. And then your boss might say, I think that'd be a great opportunity for you. Or, well, that's great, but you've got a job, right? They'll kind of show you where you're at with that. Okay. And then later that would decide for me, to what extent do I have freedom to use my A&M email or to use a private email, right? If now my work environment has become toxic for me, I don't know who you're going to email based off that email. So I might want to use my private email. Okay. But at the same time, I'm going to have found you on LinkedIn. I'm going to have done a lot more connections. So when you do get that email, it shouldn't be like a cold call. You should already have some form of relationship with me, right? So if that's my dream job, it's like saying, oh, I'd love to come and work out at your gym. Show me, buy the t-shirt from the gym. Show me that you do the same exercises that we do. Sign up for some classes that we do, right? Attend a webinar about health and fitness, right? Show me that you want to come and play in this circle with us, right? Show me you want to be part of this team. Okay.
And another one is that of course, it is for the cover letter. Do we have to use the letterhead also, or get the permission from the department to use the letterhead when we wanted to draft our cover letter?
Unless, no, I wouldn't use my professional letterhead. Mm-hmm. Because everything that's on my letterhead, you're going to see on my resume. And moreover, I'm moving out of this job and going to that job. So I just wouldn't do that. I think it's not entirely appropriate.
You can make your own letterhead for yourself. You can put Layli Ziglali, PhD, in your address, etc. You can make your own letterhead. So it's better probably not to use the university, and you would need to get permission to use the letterhead to send out. Absolutely. Great
There's
question.
lots you can do, Layli, right? You can send your resume to the Career Center. You can send your cover letter to the Writing Center. You can get a lot of feedback before it goes out the door. And let me tell you this now, right? So A&M has a phenomenal program within the Career Center called Career Shift, okay? And Career Shift pulls together every single job site. So it runs an algorithm that pulls in all the jobs from Indeed, all the jobs from Chronicle Higher Ed. It just pulls everything together in Career Shift. And here's the kicker with Career Shift. You can then go into the organization that you're interested in, and you can find an Aggie in that organization, right? So if I'm Amanda, I want to go work at Harvard, right? Or I want to go and work at Rice. I would go into Career Shift. I'd go into the Association of Former Students, and I would find Aggies within that organization and say, I'm thinking about a job at your university, your organization. Can I get lunch with you, right? If they're at Rice, okay, Amanda's going to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to go get lunch with somebody at Rice University. If it's somebody like Harvard, you might say, can we jump on a Zoom together? I wanted to ask you about jobs, and I wanted to also ask maybe if we could collaborate on some research. And then maybe I don't really care about you getting a job and I don't want to help you, but I do want to collaborate on research. So I might take the call, right? I just need 10 minutes of your time. I'd appreciate 10 minutes of your time. As a fellow Aggie, I have to take that call, right? We're part of the same family, right? You're reaching out to me as a family member, as part of our network. I should reach back. I'm a bad Aggie if I don't respond to you. Aggies don't ignore Aggies, okay? So there's some pieces there where you can leverage the university and the network that you're in, right? And no matter at what point you leave the university, you will never, ever leave the Aggie family. Whether you pay your dues to the association or not, whether you got a plaque on your wall, it doesn't matter. You're part of this family. Like, so sad, so sorry if you want to leave, you're not leaving, right? You're part of this network and we will take care of each other regardless if you want to be taken care of, right? We will look after each other. And that's the network theory. And that's one of the key benefits of coming to A&M, right? That system of supporting each other. But look at the organizations, find Aggies, get on the phone with them. And they might say, like, oh, you might not get this one, but we're posting another one in 2 months, in 6 months. We're going to post the same job again next year. We're going to employ 5 people to do this job next year. And then Amanda's got a year to write all the research that aligns with that lab, right? Aligns with that research center, aligns with that university. She's got an entire year to collaborate with all those people that work in that center. Okay, so lots of opportunity. You got to think it through. You're moving your circle and the organization circle to become one, right? Do we look similar? Do we behave similar? Do we think similarly, right? Do we go about stuff in the same way, right? Would I be a great fit? Am I going to make this team excel, right? So they're all the things you want to kind of ponder and think about.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome, Lily. Any more questions? The other thing, Lily, I would say when professors come to the college and they're doing their job talks, go to those job talks and see if you can get invited to the lunch that they'll have in like Rudder Tower. See if you can be part of like the day, right? Can you get breakfast with them? Like ask as the graduate student, can I go for breakfast with the candidate? I'm more than happy to pick them up from the airport. Because you know for me, the second I step on the flight, because I don't know if a member of faculty is flying back from that airport to the university. The second I step on the flight, that's the job interview has started. So the second I get back to my house after, right? Because everybody's going to give their opinion. The graduates will say, oh, well, he kind of said this in the elevator after lunch, right? He made this comment. One comment can end a job talk for you, right? So but I would go to as many things as I can see lately, right? How are people who are getting these jobs going about it? What can I go and observe and look at and get some tips from and get some experience of before you're in the room yourself?
Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate your interaction and we look forward to seeing you at our next pass. Thank you for hanging on this long to get your questions answered. We hope to see you next time. Have a great day.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Etchells. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Ollie, you have a question? I'm more than happy to hang back for a minute.